why we're having this here. We're having other activities for our 100th birthday. And this upstairs in this building is not handicap accessible, and the state law says we cannot have town meetings or public functions up here because it's not handicap accessible. And so we're trying to get interest within the community and the general public to raise funds through donations, grants, to raise enough money to have it become handicap accessible.
I'm Larry Martin, live on the north end of Fairlee.
Dave Colby, and I live on the other side of town, on the other end.
My name's Rob Ward, and I live down the south end of town.
Russ Smith, I live over near the lake on Fairview Street. I have a lot of friends from my buddies that live in the neighborhood, except for the buddies at school. They're all buddies.
Lee Marsh, I live on the west side of Lake Maury.
Robert Edmondson, about a mile and a half down Route 5.
Lance Colby, I'm a mile and a half north of the village.
Larry Farnham, I live up on Terry Hill Road.
Please tell us about your memories of town and school meetings held here in this room.
Oh, the best thing I can remember is you didn't need microphones in here. All you needed to do was sit here and listen to Bill Bay. Try and bring the building down. Town meetings in those days, there were a lot, when we were younger, there were a lot more people that showed up that I remember. I don't ever remember going to a school meeting.
One thing I always remember about a town meeting here, there was a discussion about paving the road to the cemetery, the rest of the road. It's paved, I don't know if it's paved a little bit up there, but anyway, quite a discussion about paving the rest of the road to the cemetery. Now, I think I'll always remember this. It went on for half an hour, I guess, back and forth. And he said he didn't think we ought to pave the road to the cemetery. He said he only planned on using that just once. And that was the end of the conversation, and it got voted down, and that's kind of the way town meetings went.
Talking about town meetings, the kids, if I remember, 7th and 8th grade used to have to do a program on that, or they had to come. That was mandatory. And they
just take notes and
do reports. Yeah, they had to set up, and we always sat in the balcony because the floor was usually full at town meetings. The crowds are definitely a lot bigger than they had today. I mean, at town meetings, it seemed much livelier too. A lot more town interest, it seemed, at town meeting here in this building for some reason. It was more friendly.
Yeah, the VFW had a big part of this building, and it just faded away like most organizations, lack of membership.
The name of that VFW post was Charles C. Oliver.
Harvey
Oliver.
Charlie was the father.
Charles was the father, that's right. Harvey Oliver.
He was killed in the Battle of the Bulge in 1944, a day before Christmas. So he was a Fairlee veteran, so that's why they chose his name, Harvey C. Oliver.
He was the only child.
Of
Charles and his.
And the only, we had a lot of veterans, he's the only one that was, to my recollection, was killed in World War II.
I remember coming up here for school Christmas parties and things like that.
Oh, of course, when we saw the minstrel shows where they're not allowed today because it's a discrimination where some characters in the shows put their faces up. And they were called minstrel shows. We had quite a few of those here. They were traveling, they traveled through, stop at various places up and down the highway. And one point about this building here, between White River and St. Johnsbury, it's the only building that could have an auditorium like this that can accommodate people and have these shows.
I think one of the last big plays that was done in here that I remember was the Tom Sawyer play. I was in 7th grade, I think. I remember that quite well because I was Tom Sawyer.
I guess I can remember when my wife and I got married and we had a wedding reception up here. We had a band and it was people dressed up in costumes. It was really a lot of fun. It was a nice building to dance, nice floor to dance on, and people really enjoyed enjoyed the atmosphere.
Well, I guess I'm in the same boat. I got married, we got married in the church there, and then we had a wedding reception here. We had a band that night.
We always look forward to, when we came to the movies here, was the newsreel, keeping us informed of what was going on in the world. Usually that was on a weekly basis. Movies back then were very reasonable. I think it cost us 25 cents to come in and see a couple of shows, newsreels, and some other things. It was, town hall has been put to good use. Hope we can bring it back again.
Graduations, had school graduations here. That was the first time I ever had a suit. I was going to say, Orford used it quite a bit.
Oh, Orford used it a lot. Didn't have graduation there because we always had it in the Orford church. But we didn't have an auditorium at high school in Orford. And the building, of course, that were in the back now, Riverdale, we weren't there. It was just that brick building. And so we had any functions we had that required space, we would come over here to Fairlee. I suppose at the time it cost us a couple of dollars or whatever, using the hall, but a lot of Orford's activities were done here.
The fire department for years, starting in about 81, I think, we used to fill this, had bingo every Tuesday night. There'd be about 100 people here playing bingo. We supported the fire department. We built, I don't know, 4 trucks out of that now, total, out of the monies that we started with that bingo.
Yep.
Tremendous amount for the town raised, and that went for almost 10 years, I think. We run that bingo.
I think, like Dave was saying, the bingo that the fire department ran for 10 years or whatever. I mean, that was every Tuesday night for years and years, continuous through the summer, through the winter. I can remember that. When I first joined the department, meetings were the first Thursday of the month, the drills were the third Thursday of the month, and bingos every Tuesday. That's all you had to remember. But I can remember quite vividly coming in here. One of my jobs for bingo was, of course, this whole place was full of tables and had people from all over. That was the one good thing, is it drew people in from a lot of other towns to come here. In the summertime, all the late people that came up. And one of my jobs was every time somebody got bingo was you had to go out and read the numbers back. And I can picture either Ray Hood or Ted Vici sitting up here calling the numbers.
Oh, fun parts in bingo too. Of course, I was involved in that previously, but was that they'd have some of these gals that came could play 30 or 40 cards at a time, and so whenever they needed a break, they'd one of the firemen had to come and play their cards because games didn't stop, of course. So you'd sit there and you'd have 30 cards in front of you. Of course, I couldn't play only one at a time when they called. So some of them would get pretty upset when they come back and only have one card and you're playing on. Then there was always the library. It was quite active. I can remember when we was in grade school, we'd have to, can't remember what days we'd come over. We'd, each couple of classes would have a certain day that they come over to the library and everybody would come over and everybody had to go to the library and stuff. And Mrs. Titus ran it for the whole time the 8 years I was here. Yeah, that was interesting. She was a great librarian.
The best time for me was when I was a kid, when my father was on the fire department, and coming and having a packed place with like 450 people up here, right, watching the firemen entertain everybody in one way or the other, and making money for the church and also for the fire department. Yeah. And then after coming out of 4 years in the Air Force, coming home, enjoying the fire department and being one of those people that was up on the stage entertaining the town. So and that was a lot of fun. Everybody here that was a fireman back then that did the fireman follies, you did things you couldn't do now, but you had a good time doing it. So. besides Jack Webb, Odie Chapman
Yeah.
did a lot of the choreographs. So it was a united effort amongst people that put on the follies. Jack would tape the whole program so that the actors, being the firefighters, would remember their lines.
So we all sat here one night rehearsing, and the Reverend was up front here singing a solo, and all of a sudden he kind of exhaled a little too much, and his trousers dropped right down around his ankles. He had his boxer shorts on. He just bent over, rolled his trousers back up, and kept right on singing.
We had a drill team when we was in grade school, third or fourth grade, somewhere in that range.
Third, fourth, fifth, and sixth.
Yeah, we did, we had
You were in the right
a
age.
marching drill team that we
Yeah.
performed and had different, we did those up here for the public and stuff. That was kinda interesting, made your own hats and banners.
What has changed? What do you miss about the community using this space?
I remember that the biggest change is this building is new.
Yeah.
This isn't the first one that's set here.
Oh, yes, back in 1912, we had a great fire, took this building out, the
This one
church
and the
next
church
door,
out.
and the library next to it. A
And,
year later, 2 years later, this hall was built, it was 1914.
Yeah.
So that's 100 years this year.
I'd like to see the town use it like it's supposed to be used. See a lot more camaraderie in the town than what's available right now.
I miss having movies up here, and I miss having the town meetings up here.
yeah, we don't have any space that's really the town space
Yeah.
to use as our own. I mean, big enough to hold many events.
I'd like to see it be used like it was when I was a kid. We need to make it handicap accessible to do that.
Yeah, the whole building is
Yeah.
tight. Because the Grange room gets overused, overbooked.
Yeah, and it's just too small to do a lot of these. This space right now is wasted space until we can utilize it the way it should be.
It'd be awful nice to be able to have town meeting back in here.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to see it back here. Sure. It's a nice place.
You don't have to worry about the acoustics, they're good in here.
And I think along with that too, once it does become available, I think you find other functions will come
Yeah.
up that, you know.
Because it isn't handicap accessible, that's the reason we're trying to raise funds, so that we can have different activities up here.